Hello, happy Tuesday, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 12th. We're on our very second edition of Show Notes, our live discussion as part of the San Diego Sound Project. And today we have four members from our concert that we have coming up for the San Diego Sound Project, four members of the band called Echoes. And these four musicians, they take elements of improvisational jazz, all these unique identities, and combine them with facets of looping, electronic, and so much more. You hardly can believe your eyes and your ears when you're watching these gentlemen play because it sounds like it would be something that was recorded by a computer or programmed by MIDI. It's so precise and it's so electronic, and it's just amazing to watch them create this music. And today we have all four guests. I might have to do a little bit of technical wizardry in the background, so pay no attention to me as I'm doing that, but we will see all four of them. And we are joined by our very own Mr. Bill, who is going to help lead this discussion. Welcome, almost everyone. I will get everyone in here, I promise you. So let's get. I'm missing Max. Max, hold on one second, buddy. I see you there, and I'm going to take you.
There he is.
And now he's a guest. Yay! I've got a few other things I'm going to do in the background, gentlemen, but I'm really excited to have this discussion with you all today and to learn where you've come from with your musical viewpoints and how Echoes came to be. So off to the races. Enjoy.
Off we go, man. This is live theater in the making here, folks. Good afternoon. Thank you all for taking the time out to be with us today. We have, as BJ said, the band Echoes, and I'm going to follow up. Gentlemen create is fabulous, and I encourage everybody watching today to make sure you get tickets for this Friday's concert. Go through the usual channels, check with the museum, and we'll get you in there. And so, gentlemen, thank you. I'm going to call your names, and if you could just sort of raise your hand when I say your name so everybody knows who you are. Matt, I'm assuming you're the band leader. Matt on vibraphone, keyboards. Matt, welcome. We have Chase on drums, percussion. Hi, Chase. We have Evan playing bass, both upright and electric basses, and then Max, saxophone, and the Akai Iwi. So, gentlemen, thank you again for being here today. I'm going to start with a quote that I read from Jazz Is magazine. The quote says, "Echoes is the sound of jazz in the right now." That's such a hip quote. Can I have each of you give me just a few words, thoughts, what that means? What do you think that means to you, jazz in the right now? Matt, let me ask you to start us off.
Oh boy, that's a really tough question. I think like even defining jazz is very hard, especially when you consider the lineage and then where things are going right now. But I think one thing, I'm not going to give a complete definition. I think maybe these other guys, my buddies, can help me round it out. But it certainly is something that's based off of improvising and based off of having a strong ear and sort of like conversational nature of the music. And I think there's a lot of other genre mixing going on with those skills right now. A lot of people who have that kind of background are integrating very quickly into how rapidly growing and easily distributable music has become now. So I think, we use a lot of electronics in our music as sort of a reflection of this globalization of music and culture that's happening with technology increasing. And so I think it revolves around improvisation first and foremost, but it also touches on many meldings, I would say, at this juncture. So we try and explore that.
Yeah. That's perfect, Matt. And I'm glad you said globalization. In the museum, we have this wonderful display exhibit. It's a touchscreen. It's called the Global Spotlight, and it showcases music from around the world. Visitors can see traditional music from a country and then today's music from a country. And it's very fascinating to see how much it has cross-pollinated globalization, as you say. And Chase, how about you? What does that mean to you, jazz in the right now?
I think I agree with everything Matt said. I think generally when I'm talking with my contemporaries, we're not really interested in genre distinctions, and we're more just interested in incorporating music that feels meaningful to us. So yeah, I feel like our forthcoming album is a reflection of that. We're incorporating elements from R&B, drum and bass, electronic music, beatboxing, in addition to like an improvisational sensibility that kind of is a thread throughout all jazz music. So I think that, yeah, that maybe is what resonates to me with that quote.
Excellent. Evan, how about you? What is jazz in the right now?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think I always try to think of jazz as more of like a philosophy than necessarily a genre,
Mhm.
as like jazz is taking elements of things that are popular and things that other people are listening to and really just making an amalgamation of all of that together to put something that's really unique on the table. I mean, if we even just dig into the history of like the genre of jazz in general, it was always about like pushing the envelope and creating new things. And I think this is sort of our interpretation of doing that, and really just trying to explore some unexplored territory and just have fun doing it.
That's the key right there, and have fun doing it. Max, how about you? Why don't you round us out with that question?
My bandmates have such good things to say. I don't know if I have a lot to add, but I think that this idea that we're making music in the right now is the clause of this, and I think I could emphasize even a little bit more, is that it's not only the fact that we're making music in the right now in the macro sense, like that we're making music in 2021 with all the musical streams that are in the air in our historical moment, but also that we're making music in the right now on the micro level, that we're making music with each other in real time in the moment.
Because of the improvisational nature of jazz, which you've all alluded to, it is in the right now. And as soon as you've said that statement, it's gone. And the next time you come to that right now, it's going to be perhaps a similar statement, but different, because that is the nature of jazz and improvisation. I listened to probably about a half a dozen of your songs as I was getting ready for today. And I came up with the expression oral soundscapes, because really, as you were saying, Chase, not so much genre based, but this soundscape of audio that was wonderful to listen to and just immerse yourself in. Now, I drew up some comparisons. I hope you guys are okay if I do this. Matt, when you were playing vibes, I was hearing a little bit of Milt Jackson, and when you were playing keys, I'm hearing some Weather Report in there. Max, on the saxophone, you play a solo in Give that just said Paul Desmond to me. It was that nice, relaxed, Desmond-esque jazz. And then, of course, when you play the iwi, which we'll talk about in a little bit, definitely hearing some Chick Corea sounds in those solos. And Evan, Victor Wooten, Stanley Clark, I mean, a couple of the giants. And in my opinion, your playing is right in that league with them. And Chase, I don't know if you're familiar with Ginger Baker from Cream, but he came out with a big band called Ginger Baker's Air Force. And you drive this band in much the same way when it's time to do so. When it's time to back off, you back off. So I was thinking Ginger Baker, a little bit of Buddy Rich. Now, you all have a maturity in your sound that really belies your age. What would you explain? What top three factors, if you had to pick three, for your rapid growth in developing such mature sounds? Evan, I'm going to throw this out at you to start us.
Sure. So, I mean, I think three factors that make us who we are. I think like the first and foremost is trust, and the fact that we all listen to each other and that we all trust that no matter what we do, if we take risks, that we all have each other's backs. And I think another thing is that we're very open to listening to new things, to trying new things. And then the third one would just be like a love of what we're doing and like a love of music, and no matter what genre or what instruments they are, that we just really try and positively impact what we're going towards.
Yeah. Good. That theme keeps coming back: having fun, loving what you're doing. Chase, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything Evan said. I think listening, we all share a lot of common influences. Some of the people you mentioned for sure, and then there are some other people as well. So we kind of have, we each have a unique interest, but we also have a lot of shared material in the recorded archive we can draw on and that we like to, discuss as a group. So that I think repeated for our group sound, we've been in residence 5 times at this place called the Avaloq Farm Music Institute in New Hampshire, which has afforded us extended rehearsal time in a kind of very rural, quiet, tranquil environment that's conducive to, really being able to focus deeply on the materials. So I think that's been invaluable. And then just also finally, like, time put in and years. We've been playing together for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years as a group now, maybe more. So I think we have a rapport, musically, interpersonally, that helps us when we're on stage with one another. I don't know if there's any other group I've been playing with for that long. So it's special.
Good. So you found that special thing that just works. And as one of you mentioned, you trust one another. I think, Evan, you said that, so that if you go out on a limb, somebody's going to follow you right out on that branch and be there for you. Max, how about you?
Yeah, I think maturity is such a complicated idea. I mean, I think that we all have maturity as the result of a lot of hard work studying music, I mean, individually and collectively, and that I think we all hope to gain still more through playing with one another and playing in new situations for new people and playing new music.
Yeah, good. Perfect. Keep reaching. I was just talking to a young person yesterday, and she said, I'm trying something brand new. And I said, keep doing that your whole life. You're always going to have these opportunities to try new things. As musicians, as you know, that just makes you grow. Hey, Matt, how about if you finish us up with this idea, the maturity of your sound, of everybody's sound in this band?
Yeah. I think, as Max alluded to a little bit, well, I think the residency that we've been doing regularly is essential, and it sort of feeds into these two ideas. One, Max mentioned or touched on, which is like, we've all been really, I think, where we went to school together and got coachings together and things like that, created this like shared community or foundation for the band. And we all individually really took deep dives, not only in traditional jazz, but into these other sub pockets of things that we all enjoy, like individually. Like Chase sometimes really enjoys like classical music, maybe a little more of the avant-garde. Like Evan really likes doing a bunch of R&B and like hip hop or Latin music gigs. Max, I mean, I don't know, Max could chime in on that. Like, there's definitely an avant-garde jazz element. Max has been to Chennai to study music in southern India. And we've taken all these individual really deep dives into other sub pockets, maybe more electronic music. And all of those kind of come back and fuse when we play together in a way that the second thing that I wanted to touch on, other than just like us having our own degree of foundation and specialization in different things, would be the maturity to work remotely, which we've been doing for the last, like, ever since we left school. And that's, I think, something we're still really, like, we've always been very conscientious and respectful people of each other when we arrange and when we get together. But I think that is something that, there's always room to grow in maturity. And I think that is something with these tours and these album releases that we're doing and coming together every once in a while, we're learning. We're still learning a lot there. But I think our maturity is really evident in the fact that we've been able to continue this project and find opportunities such as Museum of Making Music to fly everyone together and make it happen still. So, yeah.
So, Matt, working remotely, let me make sure I'm understanding what you mean by that. If you have an idea for a song, you would maybe put a little scratch track down in your home studio and then email an MP3 off to the rest of the guys. And
so we've done some degree of that, but we've actually found out, like, again, in this learning experience of working remotely, we found that we work best in everyone making their own little sketches or templates for tunes. And then we get together and we do the arranging and like manifesting of the seed of an idea as a group. And we have to do that process in the same place as a group, which is, I wouldn't necessarily say a limitation, but we work remotely in the sense that we all conceive of ideas remotely, and we all have individual roles. Like, I do a lot of the video editing and media management for the band. Evan does a lot of like distribution and recording stuff for the band. Chase and Max both look for opportunities and send emails and manage like contact. So everyone has their individual roles like that. That's more of how the working remotely manifests. And then this residency, like Chase was saying, is sort of the saving grace where we get together and we throw all these ideas in the melting pot and try and document them in some way.
Right. Everything comes together live at that point.
Yeah.
Now, we've been discussing, obviously, the remotely. I do have a question from viewer Brian asking who starts the process. Is it one of you in particular or whoever has an idea at the time?
Yeah. One thing I did want to say just quickly is like, I guess I might be perceived as the leader of this band, given that I'm the San Diego local, but it's absolutely the case that it is totally even in this band. Everyone contributes equally on the creative realm. So all of us bring in these seeds of an idea and we basically play down whatever's on the paper. And then we're like, oh, well, this seemed to kind of work. This didn't work as much. Maybe we do this here. And like, we're all sort of communally throwing arrangement ideas out. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that. But.
I think in music, like playing music and also in the organizational roles in this band, there's a nice analogy to basketball of being on ball or not. I think there's this element of somebody has the ball and there's maybe two people who are nearby who are facilitating whatever they're trying to do, even whether that be organizational, setting up gigs, or trying to make a video or something like that, or musical, like somebody's taking a solo or something like that. But it really is always a team effort in every part of it. But kind of like Matt was saying, if somebody brings in the song, maybe they're on the ball, but other people are contributing just as much by being part of the team.
Okay. So to coin a very overused expression, there is no I in team. You're all working collectively together to bring forth what you bring. And in fact, Max, you mentioned education studies a little earlier. In all four of your bios, I saw Oberlin College mentioned. So I'm going to guess that's where you all met. Would I be right on that? Yeah. Okay. And then Matt, we were talking earlier about a mentor that you have met and worked with down here in the San Diego area. In fact, it was this gentleman who brought you to our attention, and that, of course, is Kamau Kenyatta. Could you elaborate a little bit on what your experience with Kamau was?
Yeah. Kamau's a very special human, as we all know. But I met Kamau on a gig through Gilbert Castellanos, who called us for performing at San Diego Symphony Hall, which was about 4 months after I'd gotten to town after moving from Oberlin. And that was a really special event because Gilbert wanted me to do original music of mine on the stage, like a huge stage in San Diego. So I was really honored at that. And then I sent Kamau the music and I was like, here's some recordings and stuff to check it out. And this was the first impression Kamau made on me. So I met him at this gig. We didn't have any rehearsal except for the pre-rehearsal. And I sent him like a string arrangement or this particular song, which I'll actually probably play solo on Friday. But I sent it to him and he learned the string intro and outro, or particularly the outro of this song, which is not in the lead sheet that I sent out for the gig. And he learned it by ear. And on the stage, as we're playing this song, we get to the last note and I'm like waiting for it to fade out. And Kamau comes in with the string intro. He'd learned it on the piano. Wow. And I was like, no way. This dude like didn't do this in rehearsal. Like save this for now at the gig. We're on stage. I'm like half embarrassed, but half just like taken aback by the fact that someone of his status who I'd been getting told by everyone in the scene, like, oh, he's the guy. He's like the producer, the guy who's like super humble, best educator in town. And this dude took the time to learn my music and made like a really huge impression on me then. And then I walked off stage and was like, you did what? Like, I can't believe you did. And he proceeded to like, be very complimentary. And we had a lot of really interesting conversation actually for the rest of the gig and like after the gig. So that was the first impression. And ever since then, he's been calling me occasionally to come up to UCSD to help teach his class. He loves the vibes, which is just like very lucky for me. But he loves having vibes in his quartet. And so he calls me for things occasionally. And I've also asked him for some advice and just gone to his apartment in San Diego to like listen through on some stuff or check out new music. So yeah, that's our relationship, I guess, in a nutshell.
And I'd say you were off to a great start. Talk about in the right now when he surprised you with that string.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Wow. And you know, that really shows how much he respects musicians, in particular those who really resonate with what they sent him. That's tremendous. What a wonderful story. Now, another thing I noticed when I was reading your bios, however, is that you all sort of have secondary areas of study. Let me read some of these because this just knocked me out. We have neuroscience, we have a BA in English, law and society degrees. That just knocked me over. And I wanted to ask you, all of you, how important do you think it is for musicians to kind of widen their playing field like that with areas that aren't necessarily related to the field of music? Or do you feel those areas are related somehow? Let's see, where am I going to start? Max, how about we'll start with you right now. So these additional areas of study, what's the importance on those?
Yeah, I think, having the opportunity to get a college education, it was really wonderful to study a lot of other things besides music. It really broadened my worldview. It taught me to write and to think critically. And that influences my music just like everything else that I study.
Okay.
And, I think a lot of my heroes musically are people who studied things outside of the realm of music. John Coltrane was famous for being a real scholar on religion, studying religion, Indian religion and Christian religion and there are examples of lots of jazz musicians who are way into sports, way into baseball, way into others. And so I think all those things come back into the way that you create. Maybe it's not a one-to-one, but it's related somehow.
Yeah, important. Good. Chase, how about you?
Yeah, I agree completely with everything Max said. I think we would all agree that Oberlin is kind of a special place because it's pretty easy to do both. It's all on one campus, so it was kind of like, we're here, why don't? And there's so much being offered. It would maybe, for me, it felt wrong to not take advantage of it. And I also just think generally, moving out into music professionally, you need to be able to speak about your work and articulate what you're trying to do to audiences. And I think engaging in other fields can help you do that, in addition to the more important part of just broadening your worldview and giving you other influences with which to engage in your music. Yeah.
I forgot to ask, Max, what was your additional area? And Chase, how about yours? Max, go ahead.
Law and society. It's pretty much a pre-law degree.
Okay, pre-law degree. Chase, how about you?
It was English.
Okay, very important. My dad was an English major and went on to a law degree, so they do go hand in hand. Evan, how about you? What additional area did you look into?
Sure. So I actually only was a music major at Oberlin, but these guys all know that I'm a really big science nerd, and I really enjoy like understanding the exact processes of how things that we understand and like how they work. And like in terms of, I mean, I don't know, I think that really affects the way that I write music as well as just the way that I think about music. It's just sort of equating it to like the hypotheses processes and how science becomes so, how that develops is really helpful to us and to me in particular.
So really digging into the how and why, but not just where
exactly.
it is. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Matt, how about
Evan
you?
is very handy. He made his own cables for his pedal board. He made soundboards for his recording studio, and he has the whole soldering to make musical equipment in his basement. So,
Evan, I may be in touch.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt, how about you? Was the neuroscience your area then?
It was. As if the backdrop might not have given that away, but yeah, no, it was. I think understanding how like weighted systems can work in neuroscience and things, how things can be organized hierarchically, to me it's like a really fascinating thing. And getting into, I was also really into sensory neuroscience, so how an audio stream can affect our perception of a visual stream and vice versa. So it just inspired me dabbling in a lot of multimedia stuff getting out of school and at the end of school, because I do a lot of video production now, and that's been how I've sort of manifested that type A sciencey systems part of my brain. It needed to have an outlet creatively. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And it all comes into play in the music that you create. We've got another question from Brian here, and maybe just a yes or a no. Brian asks, have you ever had 4 different ideas that actually worked together into a single tune? I'm getting some yes nods. Maybe.
I would like to hear a specific example of this. Like, what is the occasion? Because all I can like piece in my brain would be like, you got these just phenomenal musicians, each have extreme talent, and like, I got this idea, and all I see is just coming together like a massive explosion happening. But in what scenario, like, can you, if you have a particular instance where you're recalling like all 4 of these elements coming together to create something utterly unique?
Oh, you mean like each of us contributing an individual idea? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and did they all come
Glimpse
together?
might be the closest thing we have, which is a song that Chase originally provided the foundation for, so I'll probably hand it to him.
Okay, Chase?
Yeah, sure. So I came in, I think, with maybe like a clear melody and rhythmic part, but not such a clear form. And maybe for this song, I didn't have harmony either. And then so I worked. I think this song is on our first EP called Square 2. It's called Glimpse, and so I came in with kind of like a sketch for the idea I had, and then I think we all contributed to help solidify the form and the harmony for the piece. You guys should add to that, but that's how I remember it.
Okay. Anybody want to add to that? Going once. Evan? Looks like you were getting ready to.
No. It's just these headphones are kind of falling out of my ears all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like the only example of us like co-composing something all together at the same time. But we've found out, like, just through trial and error, that our process of individually bringing stuff in and then sort of building that from the ground up works best for us.
And I think, intentionally setting aside many places in our music for complete anything goes, listen to someone takes the lead, and then we all react to that. There's at least like, I don't know, almost a song really in the music we write where anything could happen. Be it like someone is supposed to take a solo, or just we kind of like go into a moment of playing free, and it could be in time, it could not be in time. Like, there are things that happen like that in our music. So like that idea of co-composing, we do more in the solo or open sections of songs, rather than like we need to force ourselves to write an album recorded song like together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're not going to keep people waiting much longer here. I want to share a little bit of an amazing piece called Loading Screen. But before we do, I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you and find your music. Go on to that thing called the Google and type in musicbyechoes.com. Verify that I got that right. Okay, Evan, thank you. Musicbyechoes.com. We're going to listen to a little bit of a song called Loading Screen, which when I first clicked on it and it said loading screen, I waited for a little bit because I thought it was, it's that tech generational problem that I'll never be able to get past. Anyway, the intro is so cool because it has like a Philip Glass kind of ostinato pattern. I don't know if you were thinking of Philip Glass when you started it, but that's what I heard. And then Max, you introduced the melody on an Akai iwi. Give us just a real quick definition of what an iwi is. People will see it, but perhaps they're not familiar with it. What is an iwi?
An iwi is a MIDI controller in the shape of a wind instrument. So when somebody plays a keyboard into a computer and activates sounds in a computer, It's the same idea as that. It's just that the controller is different, so that it looks like a saxophone or a clarinet instead of a piano.
So, as you said, you're basically doing the same thing a keyboard MIDI controller would do. Or in your case, Matt, you have a vibraphone MIDI controller, which I think we're going to see in this video. I want everybody to keep a close eye on that because you're playing what looks like vibes, and yet the tines are little rubber pads rather than the metal tines. What else? Well, it's just all great. So, BJ, how about if we look at a little bit of loading screen here?
That's awesome.
That's
so
fantastic.
You know, and when I first heard that, I mean, I Bill shared his way he had his perceived influences. When I heard it, I'm like, man, this is just like the old school NES to Super NES to the modern video game systems. Like that's what I'm used to because I've got two boys and we're all gamers. I'm like, this is like epic game music right there. And I didn't know if that was the intention, but it's like another level. It's like the level of what you would. I mean, I'm not. Video game music is amazing. What the composers have done and what they're doing nowadays, where we've come from, like Super Mario Brothers and just 8-bit generation games, the level of compositional skill on video games is amazing. And then watching you guys do this, I'm like, they've just taken it up another level, up just this extreme, mirroring that with jazz forms and improvisation. I'm like, I was blown away. I'm like, that's so amazing. And again, that was just a 1.5-minute clip. That tune is about 5 minutes long. So I'd encourage everybody to go online and check out the full thing. I would also encourage everybody to check out the concert we have coming up this weekend with the band. We're going to have a concert here, and I'm in my office at the Museum of Making Music, but we're just going to be across the hall there, so in person, but also for folks who aren't going to be present or aren't able to be present here in Carlsbad, we are live streaming it too, so they can experience the show wherever they are. So not only check out that clip, but go make your way to the museum or make your way online to come check out this concert to discover more of this mastery of this type of music. It's awesome. Yeah. And when I say this type of music, I don't think it's a type. I think you guys have just created something completely off the charts. So it's wild.
We'll take out the word type and say this music because
right.
It's tremendous. And Matt, I was a little off base when I talked about your MIDI vibe solo. It's actually in the song "Tardy Party." You just tear it up on a solo in that song. So I encourage everybody, again, when, not if, but when you go to their website, look for the song "Tardy Party." Listen to the whole thing, but at 3:41, that's where that burning solo comes in. Well, we're a little after the half hour, but I do want to ask you a couple more questions. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, good. Is your order up yet in Starbucks there, Evan? Because if you got to go get it and get that coffee, feel free. We, as you may or may not know,
I think you're the first guest we've ever hosted on one of our online discussions that has been at a Starbucks or broadcasting from a Starbucks. So that's.
I promise I'm not sponsored by them, but
Evan for the win today.
Yeah, doesn't he get a prize of some sort? We'll send you a shaker from the. It's got our logo on it. At least
I don't
that.
know. Maybe it's something to explore for us for sure.
Make
Corporate
sure to
sponsorships would be great.
Remind Jillian when you get in on Friday. Say, I was told I get a free shaker. She'll take care of you.
I don't know if it wins for the noisiest environment, but it's certainly the most unique.
Well, if you had that shaker there in Starbucks, you could fight right back. Hey, you think you're loud? All right. Sorry, I'm getting off the rails here. We just renovated the museum, and we showcase making instruments, providing instruments, and playing instruments. The three sort of major themes that NAMM is all about. And then we have a fourth gallery, of course, about instruments that maybe had a life that wasn't quite what their maker had intended. Beyond the instruments. Now, Matt, I'm going to throw this out your way, but please, everybody else, feel free to chime in. We have one subsection in Gallery 1. It's called Emerging Technology, and it's focusing on specifically the evolution of the synthesizer, going from tube-driven synthesizers to transistors to integrated circuits and microprocessors. They've all been a part of that evolution. Matt, I know guitar guys have had this argument for, well, ever since transistorized amps came into existence. To your ears, Matt, do you think a tube-driven synthesizer would offer a warmer tone than its transistorized counterpart, sort of like guitar amplifiers? What do you think?
It's a really interesting question. I think for me, with how weird my instrument is from the get-go, they're only now really nailing down. There's only one company that successfully makes a vibraphone pickup system to have the option to plug into pedals and explore these more analog effects and things like that. So from the get-go, I was always working in the computer. I do all my synthesis digitally, and that had me sort of get this bias towards, people telling me, oh, you have to get a hardware synth and analog synth, like you just have to do it. And I was like, I actually like called out a couple of friends who have done this to me, and I played them like something I made with an analog tape emulator and ran it through, digitally speaking, like plugins. And I compared them, and they couldn't tell the difference. So, and these are people that were haggling me to get an analog thing. Now, that said, if it floats your boat to have analog gear and you use analog gear or older gear that has that vintage sound or warmth, I have nothing against it. And I think in many ways, like relying on your computer for a whole show is a giant risk. And I luckily, knock on wood, haven't had any like catastrophes, but like, I kind of think it's just more of a to each their own thing. I'm sure there's something to be said about things analog having a different quality to that people like, but I think it's similar to like recording your session at 96,000 and it, like audio files, which are 1% of the 1% will appreciate that, but more than 99% of the world is not going to know the difference. I feel similarly with regards to analog versus digital stuff.
It's interesting you say that too, Matt, because I've been in situations where people get into these deep discussions about the minutia of the reverb tail and should the compression be this much or this much. And I think what they're forgetting is when somebody puts a song on the stereo, the car radio, wherever, they're listening to the song and they're not digging into, wow, do you suppose that was a virtual version of a Minimoog synth or the real thing, right?
Yeah. People are listening to like bootlegs that sound terrible, but the band sounds so amazing. It's like distorted and all this crap, but the band sounds so good that it doesn't even matter. And I think like I might be the most nerdy, or Evan is actually really probably even more than me now in terms of audio production and understanding like bass traps and treating your room properly and all that stuff. Like audiophile wise, Evan has surpassed me, I would say, at this point. I used to be definitely the audiophile of the band, but I think generally all of us at the end of the day get on stage and just are like, can we look at each other and communicate with what we have at our disposal? Because that's as Max was saying, the essence of this band. It's like we have all these tricks, sure, but like what we actually do on stage is really what matters in the end. And that's what our training sort of and our formation of the band at school really taught us. We were all on like just our analog instruments when we were at school. So
so the core essence of making music, strip away all the other stuff, analog, digital, tube, transistor. It's the core essence of making that music in a live situation that really is the most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. One more quick question to throw out to all of you, then we'll call it an afternoon. Now, as I said, we've just completed this renovation. So, of course, we're not looking to change up any of the galleries just yet. But referencing back to that emerging technologies gallery, what do you see as the next major change in synthesizer, in computer, digital music, virtual synths? Anybody who has a thought on that, go ahead and toss
I mean,
it
I
our way.
think the development of like what MIDI 2.0 is something that's on the horizon, and at least something that's going to be really cool, because like the idea of MIDI of being that 5-pin cable is a technology that's like what 30-40 years old almost. And
1983.
and it hasn't changed at all since then. And I think maybe it was at NAMM last year or 2 years ago or something like that, they were talking about implementing MIDI 2.0, where they really are able to put more data into it and make it less of a binary thing where it's just like either the note is on or it's off, and really get into some of those finer details that right now producers have to sort of like finagle their way to make it seem real. And then it's really all about blurring the line between what sounds digital and what sounds analog. And I think that is like steadily approaching, and especially with the all this digital gear that just sounds just as good as a lot of analog gear, and is just a little bit easier to use sometimes. That is, at least for me, is what the technology is ramping towards and going towards.
Yeah, cool. Tell me they'll keep the 5-pin. That's all I want to hear. I don't have to replace all these cables.
Ditto. I don't need to buy an entirely new Malacat for that purpose.
How about you, Chase or Max? What are your thoughts on this area?
Yeah, I mean, my youngest brother is a computer science major, and he jokes that he's going to make my job obsolete because he can have a program create music that's as pleasant to a human ear. I think that's already here, actually, like, computer generated compositions that sound compelling and interesting. I'll just throw out one other thing that I'm thinking about, only because just earlier today I was listening to this segment about deep fakes, which is like synthetic media, using voice and visual technology. And they were talking about how, this could, in addition to all the problematic aspects for the way information is dispersed and determining authenticity and legitimacy and whatnot, it actually can also be a very powerful tool for, let's say, like an actor, because if you can create their likeness, they could potentially be acting in movies after they are deceased. If you create, and or for advertisements, you can create a figure, a model figure, and then give them language, and they can deliver the language without actually being there in real time. So now I'm just thinking, well, what if that would be possible with musicians? We've had things like holograms at shows and whatnot, but I'm just interested in the development of that technology in a musical sphere. So that just came to my mind today.
Wow, that put all kinds of fascinating thoughts in my mind, and I think it's on the horizon. It's coming, absolutely.
Definitely.
Hey, Max, how about if I ask you to finish this up, and then we'll let BJ sign us up. But before we do, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. You are obviously tremendous musicians, but you're also very, very wise beyond your years, and it's been my treat to talk with all four of you. Thank you for joining us today. So, Max, take it away.
I think it's been great to talk to you too, and I don't have much to add about synth. So thank you, and we look forward to the concert.
Yeah, let me remind everyone. Well, BJ, I'll let you do that, but we do have these gentlemen this Friday. BJ, take it away.
Not a problem. I mean, I could spend another hour talking with you guys about MIDI 2.0, the future of music and technology, and exploring what paths could be, because I mean, there's so much that's come just in the past year, of not because of any planned adaptations, but because of needed adaptations, especially where we are right now, coming together virtually and figuring out these ideas and how to keep music keep being together in these spaces. So I mean, like I said, we could probably go off for another hour just talking about the future of music technology, but we won't. We'll talk about that some other time.
After party Friday. We're gonna finish early. Don't worry.
Exactly. Join us for the after party.
Yes.
We will sit down.
Lecture.
Exactly. You like that? You like a 2-hour concert that's going to be a 4-hour lecture right after that? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Anyway, so moving on up. Yes, coming up on the horizon. Let me take a. Oh, that's I pre-programmed all my buttons. I love technology. What's the future of this technology going to hold for me? It's going to have me telling you about the upcoming concert this Friday, October 15th at 7 p.m. with all 4 of members of the Echoes here on our stage at the Museum of Making Music in Carlsbad. Tickets are still available for that. You can join us in person if you'd like, or if you're unable to make it here to Carlsbad or other things are preventing you from coming to the museum, you are welcome to enjoy that show for free. It's a free live stream. Tickets are general seating, $20. You can pick those up at the museum's website, museumofmakingmusic.org. Visit our site and then go to the events page and you can pick up tickets there. You'll also want to RSVP for the online live stream, and then we'll send you your personal link for that so you can access that as the concert takes place on Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. On the horizon following this wonderful event, we have our Mom at Home series, which is our hour-long discussion talking to artists, innovators, musicians, manufacturers, and the like about their experiences in and with music and musical instruments. On Thursday, October 21st at 2 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to be welcoming 3 fabulous female vocalists here in San Diego: Whitney Shea, Cassie B., and Tanya McKenna, who have formed the super group, at least I'd like to think of them as a super group, called the Decadames. These are 3 amazing musicians. We actually have the fortune of knowing a couple of them and have worked with a couple of them here at the Museum of Making Music. I have yet to meet Whitney, but this will be our opportunity to talk to her. The Decadames is a project they formed here in San Diego to highlight prominent female vocalists through history, I believe all the way back to the 30s and 40s up to present day. So they talk about their hits and their influences on music. We're going to learn more about their musical project here on Thursday, on Mom at Home, Thursday, October 21st. Other than that, wonderful another episode of Show Notes. Thank every one of the musicians today, Evan, Max, Chase, and Matt from Echoes, for sharing your knowledge, your impact on your music, and more, and also just giving us a sneak peek at what it's going to be like for this Friday concert. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you Friday. Again, visit our website, museumofmakingmusic.org, if you want to attend this concert in person or virtually. Just grab your information there, let us know you're coming, and we will see you then. Until then, everyone, take care and have a wonderful week.